Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to another Wulzy Wednesday. Now this one's slightly out of the plans. My OBS crashed when I was trying to record something else. So it's Monday. Wulzy Wednesday is officially in under 48 hours at this point. It's Monday night, and I was frantically browsing Newgrounds, and I found this song by Laps called Broken Cog that was literally just released the other day, and it's so fitting, dude. Look, Broken Cog, and then the author comment is literally just a cog, and I'm like, maybe I could just make a glitchy saw blade only level. Glitch effects are either something that take forever to make or no time at all, and I'm gonna try and make it on the no time at all side, considering my situation here. So we're gonna hide a saw blade that's got no touch on it. This is going to be our spawn group for the level, so we can spawn in the mid-air here. Picturing a very desaturated blue for the background here. We can go with something plain. Yeah, this but darker. It should be slow ship as well, just to match the vibes. It's very slow in the beginning. I think I'm just going to get straight to work with this if we just place this saw blade. Let's go with color channel 1 on the base and then black blending for the details. So we just have an outline here. Can make this rotate a lot slower. Let's also just double stack the outline just by scaling down. That should be pretty neat, and we can have another one over here that is connected to it, but overall smaller. Then we got to be creative because we can only use saw blades, so we're gonna have to place an object with no touch again, making it probably even slower. I'm gonna try and connect these saw blades, something like this. Don't know how that's even gonna work, but we can definitely change the colors of it. Maybe we can go with like a light blue. I'm thinking of a pretty cyber looking color scheme. Let's just change the detail color here. Don't know what to hue this. I think green might look pretty cool, but we can just very subtly do that. I'm assuming we can give this a group like number 2. I mean, if we look at this scale here, the Y is the one that's really short. So if we make this touch triggered with a decent length that's quite varied, just so it kind of changes line to line, keep the X the same, but make the Y go tiny in the areas that we're not in for that group number 2 that's centered on the player. It's always such a waffle to explain area scale triggers, but let me just show you. If I put 3 layers down, you'll see that these lines appear at different rates as we get there, which is pretty cool. But I'm going to take all of these objects, give it group number 3. We could probably just make a really simple alpha trigger loop with a fade time of like 0.05, going down to 0 opacity, and then fading up a block later, half a block later actually, that is, just to make it super fast paced and flashy, spamming its way through here. We can then probably take this object and make other structures like this. That's actually quite cool because these opacities are stacking and creating a cool line effect. But we gotta remember, we set that to no touch. We want to make this an actual obstacle now. Let's put a ship portal underneath the level with the lines on so I can see where to go here. This should be a pretty neat beginning. I like this. Let's just make it so you always die if you touch these objects, just for consistency. What would this object look like if it was on its side as a structure like this? It actually looks fine. This is decent. I actually really like how these objects look when they're stacked on top of each other. It creates a pretty interesting looking structure that just, it just feels nice. I'm just gonna change the length on this ever so slightly to like a 60 guaranteed. Just so when I go through, whoa. What? Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna have to just no-touch everything. Man, that sucks. I mean, it's to be expected. What I was gonna say was I changed the length on the scale just so when I'm playing, it's a bit more impactful, because a lot of these lines were showing up before they even showed up. And now it's a bit more difficult to read the gameplay, which is pretty cool. I gotta turn off the particles in this section. That should be pretty simple. Boom, background effect off. I'm gonna fade the background off at this point with a simple color trigger. Nothing more needed here. Probably will select the entire level here, give it another group 6, which can scale down. This is pretty weird as a decision, but if we just divide by 100 here on an ease in out, that should just kind of delete the level where I can toggle it right after. Since everything else scales, we might as well use that to our advantage right here. We're gonna put a background in later, but for now, let's just scale off and then we have a transition. Pretty simple here. And we can probably put a speed changer here with a cube portal. This can have group number 7, which we're gonna put on an area fade straight away. It's gonna make it fade to full opacity with like 2 blocks of length, maybe even 1 block of length. Subtle detail, but it should be nice. Dude, the level's already slow speed. Forgot about that fact. But yeah, we should just have a speed changer here. We can probably put an invisible pad inside as well. But yeah, we should have a pretty simple transition here. Nice. Let's uncheck the portals. We can already start on the next part. I feel like I'm flying. This might actually be a pretty simple challenge, even though I thought it was going to be a bit of an inconvenient thing to record just now. We can put a platform straight away, like a block like this. Here we go. What we do is we just select a new color chart. We can honestly just use this blue here. As long as the detail's black blending, we should have a pretty cool looking block, which should be rotating more slowly, I admit. I made it no touch because that hitbox was awful. We just copy paste, move like 2 little frames down. Is that enough? But on this base, we can decrease the brightness by -0.1, just so it's a little bit less opaque than the layer above it. I'm just gonna move that even closer. It's just a mini step down at this point. Just do the same thing again. Mini step down. then go to edit object and just decrease the brightness like this until we have enough layers where the brightness is just making this object invisible. There we go. We've achieved the fading off effect as I desired. This is a little strange. I don't know how to make this platform any more impactful. Maybe what I can do is just take the top layer real quick. Just make the detail too as well. It looks odd. Okay, there was a visual bug. I just went out the level and reloaded it, and it looks much better now. 3 blocks wide. Make these blocks invisible because every object that I use has to be a saw. Then just link these blocks together like so. Then every time we place a structure, I'm just going to turn off preview mode because I hate making gameplay with a black background. Hopefully, this should look fine as a platform. I was trying to make a 3D effect. It doesn't entirely work as well as I thought. And the gameplay is going to be clapped here. Guess what I do is I just double stack a pad here with less... Yeah, this is just going to justify that. We're going to put no particles on this because I don't want them to stack. Where is this option? There. Also, when using saw blades, it's probably a good idea just to go in the level, select all, and just turn off the natural glow that's on them. Oh, that does not even look like a pad. It's a blue pad on a blue block. That's why I'm kind of worried here. Let's put particles on the top object. Yeah, this might be a bit better here. That is better. I like that more. Okay, here's an example of what I mean. If I place down this saw blade and I set it to a low opacity gray right here. I didn't put any orange or any player colors on it, right? As I go past, it's orange. Turn that off, bro. It's something that I see so many creators just skip. Putting no glow in it just makes it look so much better. The nice thing about these platforms being so thin is that we can kind of just underlay them below each other. Like, they stack so nicely. I don't know. This is pretty neat. Could put another block like right on here with a black orb, and we can use that as a little stepping stone that would otherwise just miss if we just jumped over it. It's gonna use some spider orbs. I have to use these in every level now. Apparently it's funny that I use them so often, but we're going to use them creatively here. We're going to have to just quickly turn off link controls, move these blocks to the other side. And this can be like our ceiling with a blue portal just right underneath. Also, I don't know what difficulty this is. I'm going to try and predict it already. This is probably going to be an 8-star. I'm going to do a ball jump right here. I'm going to set it to free mode, and it's going to have a bit of extra easing, just like I did in the circles only challenge. I don't know why when a circle only challenge bombed that I thought a saw blade challenge would be any easier, but it kind of is. I think a good reason for that is that I'm kind of just going straight into it with ideas. Like, I'm using the structures immediately. Like, I'm not even making gameplay first. What I've found works for this section is an area scale that makes the Y pretty big on a giant length here around the player. So you don't really notice it in full swing, but what's actually happening is that these objects are starting off giant, and it kind of looks like they're tilting towards you, but just a nice movement from the right down up into place is pretty cool. It just feels so much more floaty like this. Okay, maybe this should be a wave. I don't know. Jumping into a wave would be really awkward, though. You know what? Because it's awkward, I'm gonna do it. I need to train myself with weird situations here. I think I'm gonna try something a little bit more interesting for this wave section using some depth. So let's just place down a saw blade. Very simple. I don't know why it's going off sync like that. I just think it's a thing that's fixed by leaving the level and going back in. Now it's fixed, yeah. We just set this to 60 degrees on edit special. This can be group number 9. Then we're gonna copy paste half space and warp up, decreasing the brightness by, I'm gonna say 0.1 on the base and the detail. It's not enough at all. Let's just go to minus 0.5 straight away then. I don't know, dude. There's going to be another half space layer, which is going to be a bit bigger. It's going to go down to minus 0.8. Now, at this point, these saw blades are pretty hard to spot, so I'm just going to decrease the brightness by something very, very small, because as we're going further down, they're less on the screen anyway. So we're going from 0.82 to 0.84. Continuing the pattern here. This is a free moving wave, so it's sometimes, even if these objects may seem like they're going to be off screen most of the time, you are going to be able to see them. And these are going to be hurtling past the player, but we'll set that up soon. I haven't been giving these different groups. That's actually a really annoying realization here. This has to be 10. One next down should be 11, and so on, dude. You get the idea. So we have groups 9 from 18. I think adding any more saw blades lower opacity than this is kind of pointless. Oh, it creates a pretty cool layering effect. Well, that's not the goal here. I'm just going to put 3 layers that are smaller than the original. All on no touch. We're going to start with this front layer here, which is 18. 18 will lock to the x-axis here, and it's going to have a -1 x mod, just to show you what that looks like here. That's moving basically the opposite speed to me. I'm going right. This is going my speed, but left, for as long as I set on these move triggers. Let's just put 15. If I then decrease this, this is going up a layer to this one. Parallax works so that objects closest to the screen move faster. So I should really just decrease these X mods as we go down. When I copy paste these to the side, you'll see what I mean. That these objects, oh gosh, that looks horrible. Maybe we can start off with a -2, so it's going twice my speed, and then we can just decline it by -0.2 every time. So as an example, 14 is going -1.2, 13 is going to go -1. And as we're going through this wave, there's going to be a bit of an effect on the front. 9 is going -0.2. So now these saw blades are kind of going to connect at times. This effect has to start closer to the wave for sure, because these objects are going to be over to the right a lot. Let's just give them group 22. We can have a transition where 22 moves 220 blocks to the left, basically. I think a 1.5. We can make this sine, I think, just because it's a nice easing most of the time for smooth transitions. Let's just see. There we go. That's cool. But to make this work, we're gonna have to put so many of these saw blades, unfortunately. I want to make it a bit more dynamic so it's not just playing in a straight line. Since these are on group 22, I can probably set it with an area move. So as I get closer to these objects, which are on group 22, centered on the player, they're gonna move down. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay, you see how it's working though? I think I want to actually move them +30. Didn't know how that was gonna work. Yeah, you see right here, I'm kind of just pushing them out the way. Once I create a ceiling here, this is going to be much better. I'm actually going to give these a new group on the bottom, 23. And I'm going to change that area move up here to be focused on 23. So that way, I can still use 22 as the moving group for all of them, but then I can copy paste them onto the ceiling, make this group 24, and then just create another area move with this inverted so that the objects at the top go up instead of down. So now we should have a pretty cool effect. Okay, these are nowhere near close enough to each other. But this is so neat, right? Didn't expect this at all, but I can probably just move them super close to each other, like this. Just because of how strong that area move is. Yeah, this is sick. Like, all I have to do is just put a little obstacle inside, and this is awesome. To make it even more convincing, I just have to put these on something like T2, where I can control a shader to be. Then I can radial blur them down on themselves. This is actually really cool. I dig it a lot. I almost forgot about the tiny little saw blades at the very top here that should just very barely move. We're going to increase these by just a 0.1, so it goes 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. It doesn't really add much, but there's just a couple of extra little layers here. I like this a lot. Thing to do now is check it out in normal mode, but I'm just gonna check don't fade, don't enter preemptively. This is cool, but look at my wave. It kind of gets cut off on the left, and I don't like that. It makes it less convincing. I wanted these to be on the very foreground of the level, but if we just keep everything below B2, which I'm gonna put them on right now, it should still be fine. So let's just change the shader. Okay, we have this section now. This is neat. Then if we put a move trigger right now for group 22, which is the entire set, and move it 1,000 to the left, which is like 100 blocks. We got to keep that as sine. I almost just put an ease in out. Just to make it consistent, we can just shift them all off. Let's just see. That's sick. It's just really badly timed. Let's just make that longer. Also, I'm going to copy paste these even further into the level. Now turning off link controls. And once we get to the end of this wave section, we can just pause and remove any objects that don't make it onto the screen. This should be fun. Let's see. We should have the transition here. It's still too early. It doesn't even get rid of them all, which is quite funny. But at this point, we should just be able to go like this and just delete all of these dudes. Okay, so we have this super cool beginning with the lines. Still haven't changed the ground color, but I've been too lazy. I've just been really enjoying adding ideas to this level before even making gameplay. I think it's a nice change. I know people on the last Wulzy Wednesday enjoyed when I split the gameplay up into sections, but I think this is just a more satisfying way for me to build. This part is so cool, dude. I actually snapped so hard on this, and then it moves out, and we should have a cube that's just gonna have a platform here just to avoid dying like that. Okay, so because this cube part starts right here, and all of these saw blades go on forever, it seems, I'm gonna move these above the level. Should be as simple as moving them up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then giving them a group 25, which I'm gonna reserve for a group that's just gonna move everything down into place. When you actually play the level, 0 seconds, before you ever get there. So it doesn't look like anything's here, but playing the level yields different results. I have not made a background yet, so that's gonna be my main focus for this part. My creative process has been much different for this level because I've been using all of my ideas as the gameplay. I have an idea to put a block here, but I don't know how to put spikes in this section. Maybe that can be part of the design, is that I make a spike out of saw blades. We can have a section where the block is kind of flat and we're just climbing up to hit the spider orb. Most underrated part about using a song like this is the infinite sync possibility. I really like this section because it feels like there's a lot of clicks in succession just to get teleported down to the same block. The UFO is the first game mode I think of when I think of the saw blade, so I gotta do it, honestly. Let's go with the same floaty camera settings here. Very scared of making a background here, but we're gonna do it. Let's just slow down a saw blade to 15 and we can warp it up like this. Place it further down. We can make it color channel 2 on the base and the detail. We're gonna have to turn off collision as well. Simple as this. We have 8 copies around in a circle. I'm gonna start giving them groups. Let's start with 26 and then go 27. Just around in a circle. And actually, I'm coming to the realization that I should set these to black blending at first. So then I can make pulses starting here. Group 26, 0.1 and like a 0.2. 25, going to that blue up in a column like this, changing the group, ending at 32. We can select these, make them main only, and then go a couple blocks later and make them detail only, so that when I play, it'll go around as a saw blade and then as a circle, which is super neat. We might overlap these a little bit, so you can see that the circle pulses are kind of starting before the previous saw blade pulses end. Something like this. So there's a slight overlap. It feels more continuous that way, I think. That'll just continuously loop these saw blades going around like this. I think it's neat. We're going to take this and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees twice, so it's the other way, and then warp them down into the center, so that there's kind of an opposite effect going on in the inside, which is pretty cool. We can even go a step further and layer these so that one loop is on one end to layer with a group 36, and then the next one takes group 37. These can kind of move back and forth, starting off with 36, can start going up and to the right, followed by 37 later, before they eventually go back the opposite way, in a process that can loop, so that when we play, they're kind of going back and forth, but we need to lock them to the camera and stuff. Let's give these like B2. Would that actually blur them? That would be cool to see, actually. Yeah, this is neat. Just keeping the radial blur that we added. Lock these to the camera right here, but make it have a little bit less on the X mode, so it kind of glides towards us. That's over 15 seconds. So these objects are sitting in the background over on the right, but then they're going to slowly move to the left. And this pulse isn't fast enough, unfortunately, but it looks pretty sick. I actually quite like it. So let's just rotate this set of triggers. Everything's spawn ordered, so it should be fine. We shouldn't have to tweak any timings. This is much faster and trippier, in my opinion. And it'll be even better once we start a scaling loop, starting with 26. It's going to divide them by 5, and I think just 2 on the Y, just to maybe stretch them in an interesting way. Second thoughts, this duration should be pretty short. Just going up in group like so. After this, we multiply like so. Spawn ordering is growing on me, honestly. I didn't like it at first because you had to learn a lot of trigger work, but once you get into it, it's super easy. There we go. Now this scaling loop is making them kind of glide a little bit in the background, as you can see. They should definitely be rotating around though. They're so slow. So let's just see where the center point is. I'm actually going to use a saw blade as the center point just to keep up with the vibes here. Hidden, no touch. Group 45. It needs the movement group, which I believe is 42. I could be mistaken here. It is. Thankfully, we already gave these groups 37 and 36, which are going to rotate. Let's start off with the quicker one on the inside, 37. Around the center, 45. This can go like 10 times, and then I'm going to say 15 seconds. Then we can do a -5 to 36. Honestly, I can probably copy paste, rotate 90 degrees, and make this a bit bigger. Just move it to another editor layer, like 4. That's going to make it a bit more textured, but also more messy. It definitely helps. I quite like this background. It's pretty dark and mysterious. I think 46 should just scale back and forth, going down by 2. Much more slowly than the other layers. We can say like a 1.5, just so the whole background gets shown a little bit more. And we multiply it and then loop. Should be going so far down where we can see the entire background. Okay, that definitely is doing it. And we can probably do a scale right here for 42, which scales it around that center point. 2 seconds, ease in, and we can just multiply it by 100. What I'm looking for is a nice satisfying transition out where all of the objects just go off the screen. That actually worked perfectly. Dude, everything is working first try in this level. It's still Monday, by the way. Let me pull up the desktop. It is Monday, the 26th of August. Like, usually the turn-in time is 5 p.m. on a Wulzy Wednesday, just to make sure YouTube, like, encodes it in HD and stuff in time. The level's still medium. The ground is still blue, actually. This is a terrifying fact. I like this effect in the beginning. It's probably the most underwhelming, honestly, as time has went on. I feel like we've cooked harder with the blocks being saws themselves, with the 3D rotating looking effect here. This giant wave section with the overlay, I think this is super sick. I can't wait to put structures underneath. And then we have the quick exit into the cube with this background that I left glow on with. That's so embarrassing. This is just such a weird background. I honestly can't even get it to stay on the screen. Oh, that's why. I didn't move this with the rest. I see. Now it's centered. You see? Perfect. The problem is that they were rotating to a point that was really far off the right-hand side of the screen. Now this is much better. It's actually pretty trippy, you know? Locking to the camera is OP. Okay, folks, it is Tuesday. First off, I think this ground needs this tone of blue. We can literally just set it to something like this. Ground on black, and then ground 2, just copying color channel number 2. Something like this might be nice, except it just doesn't look the same. And you can barely see it in the ship part too. So if I choose this more cyan color, color and then just flip them around so the ground 2 is black, maybe? This works better. I prefer this. We can make the line black blending. Then we can just add a pulse for it to go to that cyan. And the background can also have a pulse which is going to increase its brightness. Looping these should hopefully help it match with the level. I think the black needs to change on ground 2. We can just transfer this background pulse over to ground number 2, making sure it's actually focused on the background. Here we go. That's not bad. I do think the background pulse itself is too bright though. We can lower that. This is much more bearable, dude. Then in the background, we can place a gradient which has a base of black, and the detail can just copy the color of the background. I thought about making it color channel number 2, but it just looks a little bit too saturated here. There we go. So now there's a little shift on the left to black. Let me just slap down a rotation trigger up here for that group number 54, which in 0 seconds is going to rotate at 45 degrees. I want the background to go around like this, but maybe in a way where it's like 180 plus 45, so it's like 225. So it would go around and then an extra 45. I think this could be super neat if we loop that. That's nice, dude. I really like this. Ooh, we could just change the gradient straight up in this part to make it a bit more interesting and match the blue colors here more. This part doesn't look right because of the radial blur. The background needs to be black, so the objects in the back fade out. But if we just look at this gradient trigger, it's on 9 and 4. We can easily just make fades for these color channels. Starting off with 4, just going to a light blue. And already this gradient is lighter. And then we go for number 9, which is going to be something like this. It'll be further around the wheel. Let's see. It being too bright might ruin it, so let's just take a look. Oh, this would actually be such a nice vibe to open up. Hold on. I could definitely do some kind of effect with black overlays around the outside. But yeah, you see what I mean? We can then slowly fade both of those layers down to black, I think. We'd also have to stop the flickering though, you see? So let's stop this and this on a new group 59. All of the pulsing going through right here is just going to quit. So then all of the pulsing is just going to fade to black. That's neat. But I'm probably going to start a color loop up here, which is going to change number 2 from its default kind of light blue shade, and then interrupt it with a deep blue. Then we can have another one that goes to green and then just slowly fade it back like this onto default. Let's just see how this would look on these blocks. See, I like this green staying in for quite a while. I'm also going to add 2 pulses though, because I think making them fade down to black and then to a different shade of blue is pretty effective here. So we can just loop these. So this wave should be a lot more intense, except the black ruins it. It's black for too long. I wanted this to appear glitchy, but it really just doesn't. It's because when I make them fade to black, all of the other layers that are on darker brightnesses just disappear. So maybe just white would work better. Okay, and then all of these pulses need to copy number 2. Instead of pulsing to this blue, we can just put that on color channel 2 copy. Let's take a look at the new effect here, which should just copy the same color channel. Yeah, this is nice. This just feels a lot more dynamic. Okay, let's look at the beginning. Can we use these for a little bit of a backdrop as well? These would need to be on a different opacity. I mean, they're pretty much invisible most of the time, but still, 67 should be like 0.25 at the very most. We just create a little bit more to it. Maybe you could area scale the Y here, or just make the Y bigger in general. That's a pretty cool texture. These look like light shafts. This is incredible. So let's put 68 to lock to the player's X, but with less mod. We can say like a 0.8 over 10 seconds. So they're just sitting in the background and they're warping as we get close because of the area scale that's on them. That's so neat. We can just copy paste and then warp up for a bigger layer on top. Then I'm going to inversely mod the X. We have to change the color on this layer though, and I don't know how. Can we make pulses for group number 69 on the main only? We can go main green and then detail gray, and then maybe do another one that has blue instead of green. Then just loop these. Trying to mix up the colors, but it's barely noticeable at all. Change this alpha trigger to be only the bottom layer, then the top layer can have a slightly higher opacity. Hopefully that's going to make it more interesting here. I think it does. Let's increase that negative mod as well so they move faster. Yeah, this is better. This is the messiest thing I've ever done. Okay, let's just change color channel number 9 to be white over for this transition so the is a bit more effective here. Just so the build-up's a little bit more effective, dude. Because I feel like it just stays the same all the way into the transition. Here we go. That's better. Nice. Shouldn't be more difficult than literally just putting saw blades here with slow rotation speeds. Okay, so we have these saws that are going to move slowly. Let's give these group 74. X mod 0.4. Let's see what that looks like just going through here. A bit too slow, I think. If I made another group of them that was slightly smaller, probably make this 75, move it a bit more into place. And these could be on a 0.6 mod, so they'd go faster. And it kind of overlaps them. A little bit strange in their positioning, but it could work. We could do one more layer on the top, which is just going to be even smaller. It's going to be on T3. It's going to have color channel number 2, group number 76, and we make that a 0.8. Okay, so the black objects, I think, are going to also have to move up with the screen. Instead of setting them to the color channel, I think I'm literally just going to group them and just make a pulse for them, just so it takes slightly longer, like a 1.5 all the way to white. We can hold this for a bit before toggling them off here. They fade off at this point, and then they just toggle right on the portal, just so no one gets hurt by them just sitting there invisibly. Trying to figure a way just to make them work in with the level a little bit more. But I really like this as an overlay. Hopefully this looks good. It does. Nice. I tried to use these for a little bit of foreground. It just doesn't really look that good, so I'm going to delete it. These strips were just not a vibe here, unfortunately. If I just turn off the rotation of these, maybe just scale them down on themselves. It doesn't really have to be in any sort of order. But it might be fun if I can just place a layer on top. Oh, these are all T1. Hold up. I don't want that to go over the top of the player, so let's just make them B3 and B4. We can use color channel number 2. Let's link those, make them no touch. I could just make a smaller version. Some of them can even be like stretchier. Ooh, that's a cool arrow. I'm making 3 variations that I'm just gonna use randomly. Or do we want these to rotate? I think we do. Hold on. We're gonna place a touch triggered area rotate at the very beginning of the level. The game's basically gonna pick a number between -20 and +20. We could even put a bounce out just to make them feel a little bit more stiff and match the vibes of the song a bit more. They barely even move that way. Just copy pasting this through, and this part might actually be done decoratively. Okay, this is neat. The rotation is still not enough, bro. I don't know how much I'm gonna make this. Maybe just 120. Okay, the back out works on a super large length here. This is good. Let's see what we can do with giant saw blades. We're gonna set these to a consistent rotation. Color channel 2. I don't like this circle in the middle, but if we can somehow make it so that the circle just looks natural on the orb, this would be huge. These could be layered underneath the blocks, to be fair. This color actually looks nice. We just need to set the degrees to much lower. Okay, we have 5 layers here now, and I think I'm gonna go from the outside and start giving them different layers. Like this is 79, this is 80, all the way down into the center, which is 83. We can place an area trigger once again. This time it's a fade. I am carried by these things. We're gonna make it fade on as we get there, starting off with 100 length. Oh, actually, 79 is the outer layer. We should make the inner layer the one that appears first. Then we're gonna copy paste, decrease that length by 20, and then decrease the group. This way, the bigger layers on the outside are less visible as we're going through here. Hopefully, we're just gonna have this huge effect on the thing that looks sick. The highest opacity is on the inside with 0.9. Then it goes 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, 0.5 in the outer one. Let's prioritize the orbs here. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. Oh no. I'm hoping that the area fade is gonna carry this and make them not overlap. They do overlap. That sucks. We could do a bunch of different sizes, but then is it gonna hit the same? I don't know, dude. Okay, let's take a look at this in normal mode. We need to turn off glow for these saw blades, of course. What if I selected them all, copy pasted, and moved down and made them blue? This actually looks surprisingly good. I like this underlay. It matches them with the blocks a bit more. Don't know how it's gonna work with the area fade. Oh, it looks good. Wait, if we just take this outer layer and place one of these saw blades down, making it super big, and using that same sort of subtle rotation, putting it on portals, this could look neat. Mainly just the game mode portals, so I don't want to cluster it, but this could look nice. It's very subtle because it fades on for just a second. I actually kind of like that. I don't know. There's something about it that's just kind of charming. Not in this one. Then I'm thinking of making a little object right here. It's going to have a super long beam connected to it, which is also going to have no touch, a common theme of this video. The colors on it are just 2 and 4. I think just copying this and rotating it at different angles is a really neat way to go about it, and just center it all on this block. This could be nice. The layering is kind of weird when things are visible, but it should be fine. And it works both upside down and normal too, which is pretty neat. Okay, this is surprisingly looking super good already. It kind of looks a bit like a Neo design level in the way it's structured with how open it is. I have my work cut out for me in this section for sure. Okay, let's start on a UI layer, which we're going to use with some incredibly fast rotating saw blades on either side, because this is going to be the center of the screen once I set up some objects. I'm going to make super wide actually and rotate very quickly. Something like this. This can be one layer. That's going to be 84. Link those, and then we can make it 85 and 86, just scaling down. Boom. This guide is going to be 87. Then the whole thing is going to be group 88. Therefore, I can set down a UI layer with group 88, 87 is the center, and now we're going to have these objects that are just sitting on the sides of the screen, which is pretty cool. Let's just set up rotations for like 20 seconds. We can start off with layer 84, which is going around the center 87. Let's start off with 5 times. Then 85 can have 7, and then 86 can have 9. So now we have a layer around the outside, which is rotating like a box, which is pretty cool. Then we can start scaling, starting off with 84 around the center 87. So divide 1.2, multiply 1.5, divide 1.5, multiply 1.2. So these objects are just going to scale and rotate around the outside in a pretty dynamic effect that kind of just boxes up the screen pretty neatly. Then I've made another loop here. First, these divide by 10 for 1.5 seconds, and then multiply by 10. These are only on the Y. So when I play, these lines are going extremely thin sometimes, which creates a pretty cool looking effect. Then I want to take this and just scale it up a tiny bit more and make it a little bit more colorful using color channel number 2, which is hopefully going to give the lines a bit more texture here. I mean, this looks decent. I've just put them on another layer on the inside, which is a little bit smaller, as you can see here. But I think to make this effective, I'm going to have to make an alpha trigger loop starting with 84, making it go to 0, then making one for 85 and 86 before copy pasting and making these visible right after, just like this, just to make them disappear and come back. That makes it a bit more hypnotic. I like this. And what's nice is that to exit, I can easily just scale up the collective group 88 around 87, like 10 times, something like this. Ease in out 2 seconds, and they will literally disappear because this layer is so huge. There's a gap in the middle, which is where the center point is. These objects are just going to scale away from that center point really quickly and just leave the screen, which is super cool. Except this guide object has to go, dude. Dude, get off my screen! Oh my god! Okay, this guide has to go in Viz. Or we can literally just toggle that entire thing. Oh gosh, it stays on at the beginning? No. Dude, the UI trigger is so far into the level, though. It's over here. I guess I just have to use an alpha trigger for it to go on and off. That's so weird. So now I get to test the transition in for these objects over the top. It should be pretty decent. It's no scale, but it still should be effective enough. Yeah, this is fine. I don't mind this at all. I think this is pretty dynamic and neat. It matches the colors well, and then we have the transition off. Very cool. Okay, we really just need like accessory decoration at this point. Like if I can just stretch out the saw blade, stop it from rotating, and just give it like a gray, and just flip it the opposite way after rotating it a little bit like this, could probably create some kind of sparkly looking object where we have a few of them with the same ratio just in the corner like this. Like you see the vision here? I don't know. But maybe these two can have another group 111. Where's their center? Oh, come on. That's such an awkward spot. I mean, I'll try to put a saw blade there. Just on no touch, this can be the center point. We could just rotate it one time around 360, 111 around 112, 3 seconds. Then every time we use this, we just use build helper, which is going to add a new group every single time. As you can see, these are now 121 and 122. So going through, we should have these little twinkly particles going around the portals and stuff. It's pretty messy, but it could work if I get the right colors here. Like this looks cool because it's patchy and it fits. What's the group on the outside here with the area fade? 79. Let's see if I can just make a copy of these a little bit further up that have no low opacity but have that group instead, and we can put them on 2 and 2, which should make them light blue. So hopefully make these particles stand out a little bit more as they're rotating around. It's just so hard to get this right, honestly. I don't know about this. It works. Like, it's fine as decoration. It's just kind of lame. We're gonna make new obstacles for this wave section. Let's just go with a color channel number 2. Fast-moving saw blade. Has a couple of layers on the inside with a little extra hue. Because this looks neat already. Then looking at these area fades, 83 was the most visible of these, followed by 82. So if I just slap these on this saw blade like so, then add my own custom layer, which is gonna go like 1,000 degrees. It's still gonna be color channel number 2. Gonna be copied a few times like this. It's gonna have group 1, 2, 4. Area fade, and then make it fade on as we're getting there with a very short length. We should have a little pillar that's going to light up as we go past, but it needs to be more visible than that. Let's go with 50. Something like this. Yeah, that's cool. I'm using a lot of area fades here because I'm not trying to distract from the immersion of the foreground that we made. Okay, it's time to make another area fade for another new group, which is going to be 1, 2, 5, and this is going to have double the length because some of this stuff is like really invisible. We could honestly just take these objects, put them on that new group, and then rotate them to create an edge, which I'm gonna then extend down like this. Okay, so I've placed them in the level, and what you'll notice is that the further down I go, you'll be able to see them more clearly. And that's because on this area fade, where is it? Dude, there's too many triggers. This one right here, I've made it on the Y only. So it lights up as we get to that height, which is super neat in my opinion. And another reason I did it is because technically, if you think about the positions of the saw blades, there's one here and there's one here. And the area fade, as I'm going on the X, it's like, okay, light up this set now. And then like 5 blocks go by and the other side isn't lit up yet. And I'm like, it's kind of annoying for structure. But I decided to make them based on the Y coordinate. I forgot to put hitboxes. 71 objects for this is a little bit outrageous, but it's fine. Let's make a third area fade, which lights up as we're getting to that place on the X and the Y. Adding a new group 126. Let's go with one of these saw blades. We've stretched it out. We're going to make an arrow like so. There's not a like so moment, dude. What is this? I don't know what I'm doing. Make that group 126. Then we can hue it ever so slightly back the way like so. So it kind of has a different style of hue to the saw blades. Ooh, we should scale these down in the back end. This looks pretty neat. Hey, this is all going too well, I think. Okay, dude, these arrows are so appreciated for this section. I could not see where I was going at all, so it's really nice to have these. You're basically just following the arrows, I'm not gonna lie, and the rest is just DLC. I'm gonna increase some of the fades here because I want to see them more. You know, I've put decoration, you can barely even see it. There we go. Now it's a bit more lit up. Awesome. All right, last effect for this part. Give those a group 127, and then we go through with the arrows as well. If I place down this area scale with a lot of X variation on a giant length that stops before we get there for that group, we have an effect on the arrows now where they kind of just scale onto themselves in an interesting way. But if I pause and zoom out, look what happens to the saw blades. Oh my gosh. Okay, I tried this block design with a bunch of circles that scale on. It kind of just looks trash. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe if I use something like this, but I feel like I've done that so many times for my detail. Dude, I think I figured it out. I think I finally figured it out. All I have to do is place down the saw blade, which I'm having to exit the level and go back in to reset to its normal position. Yeah, and probably make a platform. What does it look like with different parts of it just on invisible? That looks kind of interesting. Hold on. All I would have to do is give that a group 128, which I'm going to put on area rotation that I'm going to hit right here on a touch trigger like that. Okay, I think I figured it out. If I put an area rotate with a big length that's very varied here, and we have a degree number that's 90 plus or minus 45, these objects are kind of going to teeter as we get them, and it's kind of unsteady for each layer, right? It's going to scale one super far down at the very bottom, except this is going to be awful because we're going to stretch it in. It's basically going to go invisible. Yep, let's get rid of that. We'll figure something else. I think we just make 3 layers max, and then we just put a super simple saw blade right here, which kind of pokes in the entire way. If we stretch this super large, it'll kind of just sit there. This can be super quick as well. It looks like a frequency or like a beam or a signal or something. I think just the top layer is going to warp inwards for the landing spot, except that might look a little bit weird on some of them. So I'm really just going to copy paste this around first and then fix that landing spot afterwards. It's going to look goofy for now, unfortunately. Okay, here goes the very painful mission of just warping these down. It's actually really different to the style that I normally put down, so I'm super glad I'm using something like this. Then we take one of these, put it upside down, and we take the 2 blocks on the top, like so. Flip it upside down, maybe warp it a little bit inwards and upwards, and we already have a spike. All I have to do is rotate it into itself. We can probably hue change that. Yeah. Awesome. Let's go. This looks fantastic, dude. Oh my goodness. Dude, for these spikes, I can literally just take this block right here. Just flip them upside. Oh! I'm the best! Dude, I really figured this one out. I'm actually popping off. Literally my coolest design in so long. And it's just so copy-pastable because everything rotates differently. Dude, this is so disgusting. Oh my gosh. It's gonna help with the transitions of the portals and orbs real quick. Just because they kind of just sit there the whole time. I'm gonna just throw an area scale on. Should be super simple and harmless here. Stopping as we get there, but they're gonna be small around the player here. Just so they have a slight transition in here that just makes a little bit more sense than just sitting there, you know? It's so subtle, but it works so well. We can throw the shader onto everything real quick. Hold on. I can just spam this a little bit just to make this part fit with the song a bit more. Then we can just throw an invert color in here with a good fade time as well. Let's see what this looks like going through here. That actually looks pretty good. Then to end, we can probably just put the shader on the top layer and put a bulge that has like a 1 second ease in, but 100 setting. Like something like this would just throw it all the way off. Wait, I have a level name. Sawsome. Or do we want to do Sawsome? So that's not how you spell awesome. Awesome. Sawsome. Really, all I should have to do is just warp this down like this. Okay, this looks good in outlines. The center of the camera is over here. Let's just align it with the warp center. Yeah. Okay, so we're making it fade on here, and then we have to think of a creative way to light them up. Let's use group 133, and then let's put a saw blade on the left. It's gonna move 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's gonna move 200 to the right on a move trigger. Gotcha. This is gonna be hidden, by the way. But this object is gonna be put on a loop of just going really quickly to the right, and then after that, going all the way to the left. Let's just loop that. We're gonna make an area tint, which is gonna be for the main only. So for the outlines of the saw blades, we're gonna be tinting to color channel number 2 on a very short length of like 20, maybe 30. Full tint, and that's gonna be for group number 133, which is all the saw blades, centered on 134. So when this saw blade passes these objects, they're basically gonna light up to that color channel. Huh. I need to make them invisible first, dude. I completely forgot. Boom! The length needs to go up, but you see the vision, right? Just tweaking some fade times, also increasing the length, just to try and compact it up a little bit. We can probably move this end screen a bit closer now. I'm gonna hide the player with this options trigger. I'm also gonna put a saw blade as the portal design and the orb design here, which is pretty weird. I don't know. There's something that just feels so wrong about this. Also, because some of these overlap, I am gonna combine them with their area scale. Placing so much deco and it all killing you and having to remember to remove the collision on the object is actually so annoying. Especially because I used so many different types of decoration. For every single thing I placed, I had to just remember to check that button. But yeah, dude, this is awesome. My insane 8/9 level that you guys are probably going to call a demon just because of the bad sight readability. I'm usually the only person that knows how to play my levels because of how tricky they are to sight read. Some of these arrows do a lot of heavy lifting, but yeah, I'm super proud of the effects in this level. I think it turned out super good. It's nice and fast paced. Nice change for a Wulzy Wednesday. It was super fun to build, probably one of my favorite levels in the series so far, just because of how easily everything came to me. Like, everything worked pretty much first try. It's actually a dream of a series. And we got the end screen to work. That is awesome. I left the glow on the saws. Did you know how embarrassing that is? Okay, we're going back through. I just want to see what that end screen looks like without that pesky glow on the saw blades, dude. I was complaining about it all video and I still left it on the end screen. There we go. Now it flickers from side to side like it's supposed to. Huge. That is awesome. Check it out on the Wulzy account. Bada bing, bada boom. Thank you so much for watching this Geometry Dash saw blade only decoration video. Leave your ideas for Wulzy Wednesdays in the comments. Check the links in the description. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day.